Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so happy you're tuning in today. My guest today is Brandon Bateman. Brandon is the founder of Bateman Collective, which specializes in online motivated seller lead generation through PPC, SEO, and Facebook ads. And Brandon and his team have generated over $50 million in wholesale assignment fees for over 150 real estate companies each year. So I'm excited to dive into this topic of digital marketing. Now, it may be that some of you are already doing things like ads, Facebook ads, Google ads. Maybe that some of you are thinking about it, or maybe you just don't know where to get started if that's on your radar. So I want to talk about all of those things today, but welcome to the show, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. I'm super grateful to be here and excited.
So tell me, how did you get started in this business and why did you focus on real estate and real estate investors?
Yeah, that is a great question. I don't know if you in your business journey started out the way you ended up.
No,
I know
no,
I didn't.
no.
I don't think anybody does, right? Maybe there's somebody who's got it more figured out than I do.
Mhm.
What I knew at the beginning, I didn't have much of an interest in real estate, but I did have an interest in digital marketing, and I started to kind of go down that path. So in the early days of this, I was a sophomore in college, starting this digital marketing company, and just hoping to learn and kind of grow as I go along. I took even my first few clients didn't pay me a thing. I just told them I don't care what I do for you or how much of it I do or if you pay me or what you pay me. I just want to do marketing and just let me do that. So I did that. And then from there started charging people and eventually got into I think my third paying client was a real estate investment company. I don't know if you know Cody Hoffine by any
Mhm.
chance. A lot of people do from Wholesaling Inc. that he co-founded, but he's not involved anymore. He was actually my third client, and he was this real estate investment company. But I was just doing like digital marketing. I wasn't necessarily doing real estate investment digital marketing. So then over the years, started a software company in the PPC space and then kind of wound down on that and then generated, we went more of like the enterprise technology route and started working with a bunch of companies in that space. And all through this time, I had Cody as just this one real estate investment client. And it was just this tiny piece of the business. And almost never talked to him. I'd always try to reach out, and then he just never responded or anything, but paid the bill every month. It's one of those clients. So for like 3 years, like almost no communication there. And then one day, Cody calls me up and he says, "I don't know if you know this, but right now in our business, our single highest revenue channel is online ads, and our highest ROI channel is online ads, and our largest average deal spread is online ads, and our highest lead conversion is online ads." And all these things were true. And it was blowing the other marketing channels out of the water. And he said, "Why don't you come to one of my events and speak to some of my students about what you're doing here?" So I went to that event, and all but one of the people there ended up becoming a client. And then from there, had more and more referrals. It snowballed. At some point, I looked back at my business, and majority of our clients were in real estate without me even trying to make it happen. It just organically happened. Cut off the other side, decided this is all I want to do. And that was about 3 years ago. And for the past 3 years, I've been focused solely on how do we make a fantastic product for real estate investors. And I've really come to like the space. I started investing in real estate myself. We made that a part of what we do as a company. And it's at this point, we work with about 150 investors across the country.
So tell me what you do in real estate. I did not know that you were actively investing in real estate.
Maybe that's not the right choice of words. I believe in real estate investment as a vehicle. I also believe in staying in my lane and a large amount of focus on my business. So all of the investing I do in real estate is 100% passive.
Okay.
I'm a limited partner in a number of different transactions, and I continue to do that. So that's I'm trying not to have shiny object syndrome. I see a lot of our clients doing well, and sometimes I'm like, you know what, we could do that. But at the end of the day, like what I'm really great at is digital marketing above all else. We're kind of applying that skill set to real estate, but I do recognize it as a great wealth building vehicle.
Well, there's nothing wrong with investing passively, nothing wrong with that at all. And I do believe you're smart to stay in your lane. It's something I have trouble with, shiny object syndrome, something I have trouble with. So
Every entrepreneur ever. It's what gets you into it.
It's the entrepreneurial curse is what it is. But I mean, it's a real thing, folks. It's a real thing. So your agency it's interesting that it evolved into real estate investors. And I was having a conversation earlier today with another investor, and we talked about how you start out on one path and you end up someplace totally different, but it's really where you're meant to be. And I think that is so interesting. So thinking about this from a real estate investor's perspective, what does it mean to your clients in terms of the results that this is your sole focus? Is this is obviously what makes you different. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it definitely translates into results. And I don't want to like pick on any of our competitors or anything, but there's a lot of companies in this industry that are kind of like, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I figured this out. And then now I'm going to do it for you too. Mm-hmm. And that's true for a lot of different things. And it's my opinion that you can't provide the same level of quality of what you're doing under that circumstance. The thing is, people that are like a lot of investors looking at it, they're like, oh, that person must understand me better. So therefore they actually trust them more. And they don't trust me coming from this outside place. But the reality is that I spent years spending over $100 million in ads in other industries and took all those enterprise insights and kind of threw them into this investing industry. And above all else, I know ads. And that's I think a huge value add. And what you'll see is that the way that we do marketing is really different, because it's not just based on, we did this once and this works, so therefore we're going to do it. It's based on a constant framework around innovation and how are we doing it a little bit better each day. And if you do that long enough, then it's kind of hard for anybody else to catch up, especially if you have full focus dedicated to that. So I think it makes a massive difference, just because, like where you put your focus is what's going to grow. And we focused so much on our product for such a long time. Like we're the only agency I know of that has a research and development team, and have had it for years, and have spent every single dollar we've ever spent on some type of split test, and constantly evolving that marketing into a form that works better.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Research and development team. Tell me about that.
It's the way I think of it like this. Let's just say we're looking at Olympic athletes, right? Let's just say who's going to be like the fastest swimmer in the world, for example. It's not going to be someone that one day cracked the code on how to swim fast and they've just been doing it ever since. Yeah. Right. It's going to be the person that's like consistently been putting in the effort. Right. So a lot of people choose an agency based on track record. They say, what have you done? I would argue that's not actually the best way to choose a company, because we are looking for a partner for years, not a partner for just right now. So if that's the case, then you want to find not just the company that has a good track record, but the company that you believe is going to stay ahead of the curve. So that's not the person that's like, figured out how to swim real fast once upon a time, and now they're just copying and pasting that. And they're not actually trying or innovating anymore, right? It's going to be the person that's consistently putting in more effort. And that's basically what research and development is for us. Like, I think that everything in marketing needs to be tested. This industry especially has way too much gut feelings when it comes to marketing. So we track everything. Every single person who sees an ad, we track did they click on that ad. Every person who clicks on the ad, we track did they fill out a form. Every person that fills out a form, we track, are they spam or are they an opportunity? And that if it's an opportunity, is it retail or is it a real opportunity? And if it's a real opportunity, does it become a contract? And if it's a contract, does it cancel? And what are all the things that affect that? And down to these granular levels in the platforms. And then we test things. Like if we change the ad to saying this instead of that, is that going to change it? Or if we set up the algorithm in a different way, or whatever the case is. So it's just the company that consistently tests the most is the one that's going to have the best product.
I think obviously people should be doing research and development, but not many companies, certainly in our industry, they don't say I have a research and development department. That's what kind of struck me. So you have a dedicated team that does all of that.
It's the only way to actually make it happen is what I've seen. Because the way research and development happens a lot is just like the people who are managing the ads, like randomly learn things, or like a client gives them an idea and then maybe people try things or something. But then here's kind of what I've seen in my business. Like there's the things that you're doing to work on the business to try to grow the business from a product, operations, systems, whatever the case is standpoint. And then there's all the stuff that's like maintenance, dealing with the fires, talking to this client, that client, whatever the case is. The problem is those fires will consume somebody's entire job, no matter what. So if you don't have dedicated staff, like I have dedicated operations staff, dedicated research and development staff, like every department we have has somebody that's dedicated to like the growth of that thing without having to worry about the day-to-day fires, because the fires consume you 100%. And I think that's why it gets put on the back burner for so many companies. They're like, okay, yeah, my job is all these things and research and development.
I love that the fires consume you, because that's what happens in life. Your day gets hijacked. You don't plan on having to put out all these fires, and then that's what happens. Now, explain to me, do you have a software or something that you talk about knowing about the clicks? What happened? Did they sign up? What happened? Did they get the deal? How do you know all of that? What do you have a software or something that you've built?
Yeah, we do have a software built around that. And we also, I mean, obviously it relies on our clients' feedback. So we need that information from them. And we don't gather 100% of that, but we gather about 50%, which I think is pretty good, considering
some clients
we can track. Yeah, it's well, and it's really like 75% of the clients using it some percentage of the time. But it's but altogether, because we have so many companies we work with, and because we spend so much on ads, like if you're gathering 50% of the data on $1 million a month in ad spend, it's, you know, you've got 500 grand worth of data every month there, which is pretty significant.
Wow, that's a lot of money. I have to tell you, I have trouble wrapping my brain around that big thing. So let's talk about ad basics. I think a lot of people get hung up on this. I heard somebody say to me just the day or two ago, I'm thinking about running some ads, and I'm just going to kind of see if I can figure out the wording and tweak the words up a little bit. And in their mind, you could tell they thought they might have success, but they thought they could figure it out. And we both know it's not that easy. It's harder and harder to get results, and it's costlier than ever to get results. So let's go back to and this is not so much so that people can run their own ads, but help them to understand what's involved as far as going back to the basics and creating an ad that actually gets results.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I don't know.
I know.
If you regularly go 3 hours with these podcasts, but you might want to be careful asking questions like this.
Yeah, that's not quite that long.
No, I'll try to keep it condensed. And part of condensing that, maybe we could talk first about like the different platforms and things like that. Because I mean, the answer to that question is different depending on where you're going. There's two main, I mean, there's a lot of platforms to talk about potentially. There's two main ones where if everybody else forgot about everything else except for these two, then you probably it wouldn't hurt you. Because they're the most valuable. And that's going to be Facebook ads and Google ads. Now the trend is, as of this moment, Google is outperforming Facebook more often than not. So that's where Google PPC is something that a lot of investors are getting really excited about. It's a pretty awesome channel. So let's talk about that first, just because that's try to narrow our focus a little bit. So let's just say we're talking about Google PPC, just to explain what that is. Every day there's people searching on Google. You're probably one of them, right? And if you're listening, you're also probably one of those people where you search Google. And what does that mean, right? Searching Google basically tells them what's in your brain and what you intend to do. If you search for a dry cleaning company, what's the likelihood that you're going to end up getting your laundry dry cleaned by a dry cleaning company within the next however many weeks? It's pretty high, right? Because that shows intent. So if somebody searches on Google for a way to sell their house, or sell their house fast, or for We Buy Ugly houses, or whatever it is they could be searching, then what they find on Google is going to heavily influence their behavior. So PPC is basically the act of paying for your ad to show up when somebody's searching for your target keywords. And that's what it is, like in a nutshell. And the reason that's important is that that targeting based on intent, like a lot of people like to target based on situational factors, like, oh, they're running to foreclosure, the house is in probate, or whatever the case is. And those are pretty predictive, but also really, really highly predictive is what they actually search in Google and what they intend to do, even more so than those other things. So that's where the lead quality is valuable. So what do you have to do in terms of actually getting that? If you just want to run an ad on Google, you could start that process right now and you could be done in probably an hour. But getting it to actually work is really, really hard. There's a few things that are really important. Obviously, you need to target the right keywords. Obviously, you need to have quality ads. Those things are moderately difficult. Where it gets really hard is like landing pages, having a really high converting landing page. You're going to pay per click for this expensive traffic, and then you have to turn it into leads. And if your landing page isn't designed properly, then you won't. And then the most important thing, so all the stuff I just talked about is what like 90% of people talk about when they talk about PPC. There's factors that weigh into success that are more important than all of those things combined, but are a lot more complicated, and people ignore them almost all the time. And these are more algorithmic or data focused factors. It's the, like, buying an ad on Google is not like a TV commercial where it's like, okay, this person's watching this show and I'm just going to like insert my commercial there. It actually relies on something called real-time bidding. Real-time bidding was invented, I don't even know how many years ago, after the internet, where it's no longer like, for example, if you go on Google and search something, you're going to see some ads. And if I go on Google and I search something, I'm going to see some ads, and they're going to be different because every single person sees something different. And that's because each of us, Google actually has more than 10,000 data points on you as a person, and 10,000 data points on me. And all of those are predictive of our behavior. And advertisers can actually use all of that data to determine the price that they buy the inventory at. And it's this weird like auction and bidding system. And understanding the value of those clicks and bidding properly is how you get a great return on investment. So that's where that gets like, there's a ton that goes into that, but that's more important than anything else, right? Because you could target, like if you did nothing else right, but you just bid on everything properly, then you would always get a certain return on investment. And that's important.
That's interesting. I actually did not. I know that they track everything that you do online, but I didn't realize that that's exactly how that worked. And that's probably one of the big ways people miss the boat when they try to run their own ads. They don't have all the pieces. And well, going back to things like landing pages and opt-in forms now, is that something that you all do for people? Is that part of your ad strategy, or is that an additional cost?
No, it's part of it. We couldn't do it at an additional cost because it's so important that I wouldn't subject any of our clients to not having that done properly, if that makes sense. It's one of those things where like, it's not good for us, not good for you. Like, we just got to get this done right.
Yeah, I know with many things, sales pages, landing pages, there's kind of a formula for this should be here and this should be here. And I'm assuming that it's similar with ads. Things need to be a certain size and be in a certain place. There are formulas for most things like that.
Yeah,
starting points at least.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and above all else, the data guides you, right? You need to be A/B testing landing pages. This is why people struggle to run ads themselves, is because if you just run ads yourself, like our average client, it would take them, if they wanted to do a quality A/B test to know, does landing page 1 work better than landing page 2? It would take them 9 to 12 months to actually get significant data on that. The reason being, we're in a data sparse industry. Like you can have a killer real estate business with 10 to 20 customers per month. How many other businesses do you know that can be that big off of 10 to 20 customers per month? Because your customers are worth so much to you. And what that means is you also have data sparsity, right? If you're trying to see like, does this work better than that? Then it takes a lot more data and a lot more time and a lot more money to get there. But we could do a split test on landing pages in like 2 days, where it would take our clients 9 to 12 months. So think in 9 to 12 months, how many split tests we could do and how much further and how much faster that page could evolve and how much better it could be. So yeah, that's the most important thing. Like I don't care as much about like, why does one page work better than another? It's just, does it or does it not? And we have to constantly kind of evolve that. But you're right, there's definitely some like principles that you need to follow. Like one thing that people get wrong all the time, their pages load slowly. If your page loads slowly, people are going to click. It's not going to load by the time they get there. They're going to, they're going to bail, and you just paid for their click, and then you didn't get a conversion because they didn't even have a chance to see it. And then Google sees that happens, and then they actually penalize you and charge you a higher cost per click because you're providing a bad experience to people coming from their platform. So you get like whacked twice on that one, right? So that's an example. There's, form structures and stuff are really important. Different design elements will convert at different levels. But if you dial all those things in, like we see that you can get significantly better conversion rates. And I mean, if you could just find a way to have a landing page convert 10% better at an equivalent lead quality, you literally increase your revenue by 10%, assuming everything else stays the same. It's a massive leverage place.
That's very interesting. So I'm assuming, your ads, they go into learning mode. Is that you still have that period of time, or uh, if you're working on Facebook or whatever, or do you go straight in and throw the dollars at them and split test right off the bat? How does all that work?
So it sounds like, help me understand, when you reference learning mode, are you referencing like the actual technical thing of learning mode, or are you kind of more talking about maybe just like a ramp up for performance?
Like you're putting in a new ad. I have friends that run ads in their businesses, and they'll say the ad's in learning mode, and then they move. That's what they're talking about. I'm trying to understand that process.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they're referencing like a really specific technical thing that's within Facebook, where like if you have a newer campaign, it says like, hey, this is still learning. And the reason that's important, let me figure out how to explain this. Because if you actually understand this, then you have like the keys to the kingdom of how to have awesome ads forever, right? But it's so complicated that it's really hard to like explain in a simple way. Picture it like this. So behind all ad platforms is AI, right? AI is like all this crazy like hype thing right now, right? Like everybody's interested in AI. AI has been part of ad platforms for a long time, because turns out AI is better with numbers than it is with language models, right? So the newer language models is what's creating a lot of hype, but it's been really good at numbers. Humans can't take into account 10,000 factors making a decision, but a machine definitely can.
Right.
So they have like an inherent advantage to us. And the thing is, if you look at what AI is, it's not actually smart. It's just capable of learning. Right? That is machine learning. And that's a huge breakthrough in technology, right? Now machines can actually make themselves smart over time. But what that means is that the amount and the quality of data that you feed it affects how smart it is.
Exactly.
Picture, like I have a 2-year-old daughter, right? She can look at something now and she can say like, oh, that bus is yellow, right? She understands those things. Her a year ago, she couldn't do that. But she still had the same inputs, right? Her eyes functioned the same. She still saw the same things. Now she can look at it though, and because her brain has seen enough things and had that repetition, it now understands that this is that, right? And in the same way, Google has all this data that's feeding into its eyes, but it can learn over time to say, that's a motivated seller. But it doesn't know that at the beginning, just like how a baby's brain is very capable. It just needs that repetition and that data and the actual behavioral thing. In Google, what that is it's kind of like, it's seeing people go through your funnel, right? We knew all these things were true about them, and then they came through, and then what happened? Were they a deal? Were they not a deal? And the more of that data you can feed it, the smarter it gets at understanding, looking at the data and seeing this picture and knowing, is this a motivated seller or not? So there's this, so because of that, when you start running ads, it doesn't really know. It's like that child. And as it grows over time, it starts to be able to discern better. And it looks at things, and it's looking at the same thing it was looking at before, but now it sees something different than what it saw before because it's smarter. And that's how you get better and better ad results over time. So this is why people talk about when you run ads, you got to give it this period of time in order to ramp it up, in order for the algorithm to get smarter, know who you're looking for, et cetera. So that's like the premise behind things. We use aggregate data and we feed that. So you could start your Google ads with us tomorrow, and you would see like, oh, I spent like $1 on ads, right? And you would look at it, and Google, under normal circumstances, would say, hey, you spent $1. We have $1 worth of data kind of feeding this algorithm. We don't know that much yet. And if you were one of our clients, then you would have spent $1, but you look in there and it'd say like, okay, we have this $7 million worth of data that we're using to bid in your algorithm right now, because we're actually telling Google, hey, reference this data from our other accounts and use it to make this account ramp up faster. So we do have ways to kind of shortcut that process. Of course, it's always going to learn unique things in your account and what's actually working in your situation and stuff like that. So I guess what I would say is, if you work with an agency that has the right amount of data, that ramp up period can be cut back. And you can, like, ads never get out of learning mode, right? They're always learning and becoming smarter.
Right.
You can tell, because if you break that tracking, the ad results plummet, because it needs that consistent feedback of everything. But you can, if you aggregate a lot of data, then you can shortcut that. And I know it's a little weird, it's a little bit complicated, but that's like an example of one of the things that we've innovated in this industry. Nobody else does that, but it makes a massive difference. for so long, the company that spent the most money on PPC had the best results. And everybody thought it's because Google favors them more because they like them because they're a bigger client. So they're going to give them a discount or something. But it's not true. Google actually gives the same favor to everybody. It's just they have more data to feed the algorithm to tell the algorithm what is a motivated seller, and therefore they did better. But if you can have that same advantage, then you don't need that massive budget if you can aggregate data well.
I can totally understand that because I'm studying AI, and I know without a doubt that the more information you can give AI, like whether it's the background on you, the background on your business, these are the more complicated results you're looking for. You can even feed in there like pretend you're my ideal client, and you've got these skills, and you can get so driven and so detailed with what you're feeding in there that then it gives you back much better results. But I never really thought about AI in the way that like Google was learning, or Facebook or something. So it all really, really makes a lot of sense. Now, if you have an ad, and everybody's had these where they're just not performing great, from a company standpoint, if you're split testing something and this one is a winner and this one is like, well, not so great, how quickly can you shut them down and maybe replace them with even a new split test, or do you even do that, or you just say this one is the winner? How quickly can your company pivot and make those changes?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of biases when it comes to this. What I see among investors is that they're far too often way too quick to cut one thing and move to another thing. And so when a lot of people say like, oh, it's you have to spend this much money, or you have to you have to give it 3 months or 6 months or whatever the case is. What I believe in is like the actual laws that our universe operates under, and there are mathematical ways to understand those. It's called statistics. If anybody remembers back in college or high school, you took a statistics class. And what that basically tells you is what is the chance that the variance that we're seeing in the results is due to random variation versus some actual performance difference. And then I would use those statistics. As soon as it is statistically significant that one works better than the other, then we feel confident cutting one and leaving the other. A concept that we teach our clients is the difference between performance and results. And to explain what that is, let's just say I'm flipping a coin. If I flip it twice and I get 2 tails, the result is that it is flipping 100% tails. The performance, however, is that the coin will give you tails 50% of the time, because performance is what is the underlying probability, and result is like what you actually saw. But that result is going to be influenced by sample size, and performance is not. So what a lot of people do is they flip the coin twice and they get 2 tails and they say, well, it's not a good coin. This one's broken. They get a new coin. And then that actually reinforces their behavior because they get ahead with the new coin. And they're like, oh yeah, it was definitely that other coin was bad. And now this new coin's definitely better, right? But we have to understand that like there's this underlying performance and we need sample size. Over time, performance and results will be the same thing. But at the beginning, we have to understand that the underlying performance of the marketing campaign is different from the results that we're seeing, either for better or for worse. And in any type of split test, or even if you're just running this marketing channel and that marketing channel, you want to look for statistical significance.
Interesting. I like that analogy with the coin. That makes complete sense. And we often, what we're seeing is not the actual result. It's just not the actual long-term result. That's interesting that you think about it that way. So when you're collecting strategic data from your clients, why would they not want to participate? I know they're probably short on time, but if it certainly helps your company from a standpoint of running ads, but it helps them to get better performance. Why is it that, do they just get busy or they just get lazy on getting the data back to you? Or how does that all happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't. I guess they get busy. I mean, you know how it goes though, right? You run a company. I don't know how many employees you have. It's like to actually get things done in a company at scale, it's a really hard thing and not everybody's very great at it, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I think I think if you ask them, is that important? They'd say yes. And if you ask them, do you think it's getting done? They'd say yes, but then they put someone in charge of it that's not doing it, and they're not holding them accountable to it, or, So I think, I'm proud of the 50% of the data that we gather. The other 50% is, there's a bunch of different reasons why we don't gather it, but but at the end of the day, like, I think our clients generally do pretty well, and we get enough data to be able to make insights.
Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting question, because if you told me, if I'll give you this and I can get you way better results, I would be incentivized to give you what you need. But yeah, people are people. So you're building, they are. So when you're building a targeted audience, you're obviously better at that than the average investor is. So walk me through that. I know a lot of it is the platform. They go find your people, but I'd like to have people understand a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, this is it's a fun topic when it comes to PPC and how it works. Because the targeting is so different, right? So many people that are used to other channels, they come into PPC and they're like, how do I target probate? How do I target foreclosure? How do I target tax delinquency? And you can't think that way with PPC, because it works so different, right? So you think, I have to target intent. What this person types into Google is predictive of their behavior. So I want to have keywords that target what I'm looking for. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Google doesn't match everything perfectly to keywords, right? You could have, like, for example, let's just say my keyword is we buy houses. There's a lot of different layers of this. Like, there's different things called match types of, like, how closely it needs to match. But with any of those, you could have we buy houses as your keyword, and then someone searches buy houses, and then Google will say, well, it's close enough. We're gonna try to bid on that traffic. But then you and I know that the difference between we buy houses and buy houses is massive, right? Someone searching buy houses, they're a buyer. Someone searching we buy houses, they're probably a motivated seller, right? Completely different traffic. Google's like, the word we, what difference does it make? It doesn't change the meaning, but they don't understand it because we're in the niche. So then you also have to do something called negative keywords, where you see, oh, someone searched buy houses and we showed up. I don't want that. I'm gonna use a negative keyword to get rid of that in the future. And so that's kind of the core of how targeting works in PPC. You have keywords that are your positives, and then you have your negative keywords where you kind of cut out the stuff that you don't want. And then that kind of gives you the range of what you're willing to accept. And then beyond that, there's like ages and demographics and all that stuff. What I suggest, like what I tell my team and kind of like our methodology is, there's no such thing as a bad click. There's only a bad bid. Because if you pay the right price for something, then you win. So there could be like, maybe you're saying like, oh, well, people who are 55 and older, we find that they're working better for our ads than people who are 30 to 40. Okay, that tells us something, right? So a lot of people would say, cut the 30 to 40, focus on the 55 and older. That's how you target. When we come to these real-time bidding platforms, it's different. What we want to understand is how much better they work, and we want to bid differently accordingly. So maybe for someone 55 and older, we're willing to pay $50 for a click, and then for someone 30, we're willing to pay $20 for a click, according to their actual value to us, and because they are going to have some value, right? So that's there's targeting, but then there's also bidding, which affects your targeting, right? Because if you're bidding lower on something, you're less likely to actually get that click. But if you do, you get it at the price that you need. And as long as you buy it at the price that you need, then you can have a return on investment. Because the key is to buy the click that's worth $100 for $10, or the click that's worth $1,000 for $100. A lot of people think, I want to buy clicks for $10 or for $50. It's about what discount are you buying that click at, and making sure you always get that right.
I like that you talk about intent, because that helps me to think about this whole thing a little bit differently. And the negative keyword. So I'm thinking about that in terms of kind of like if you set up an automation in your email platform, you say, I want this to happen, but leave out these things, these people, because I don't want them included. So you could actually say, here's my keyword, but wait a minute, I want to offset that keyword with leave this out, or add this, or it's almost like something like you would have set up rules around it, but you're doing it with keywords.
Yeah, it's that is kind of how it works. And it's a huge advantage to working with an agency, because what happens if you don't is you end up playing whack-a-mole, where it's like, here's my keywords, and then this thing pops up. Oh, that's not good.
You pray.
Yeah, and then the next one pops up and you squash that and the next one pops up. And you can spend years playing this game of like getting rid of all these because believe it or not, 500 million searches every day, 15% of searches on Google are things that have never been searched in the entire history of Google.
Really?
We like to think that the people that we're talking to are going to like just always be searching the same things. Like, oh, they search sell my house fast. That's like our ideal avatar or something. But there's so many variations of the little things there that over 80% of the clicks that our clients get in their accounts they only have one click from that particular term in the history of the account. So you have to think of it. It's not like there's these few things that generate most of the results. It's like the most of the results come from what we call the long tail, all those things that are rarely searched or maybe only once searched. So that's why it's important that keywords aren't precisely exact because you don't want to predict everything that someone could ever search into Google. You want to say we buy houses. And then if someone types in we buy house, it's included, right? But that's what makes negative keywords so hard because, you know, these things pop up and then you exclude them, but they're never going to show up again anyways. But then the new thing pops up tomorrow. That's why if you work with an agency, like we have negative keywords, every single bad search term we've seen from any of our client accounts over the past 5 years, we put on a list and we exclude that stuff. So even that stuff that's really rare, we can still exclude.
So interesting. So someone who's just starting out thinking about ads probably went, this is so over my head. So let's bring it down to someone just starting. Let's say you've got an established business, you're bringing in leads, you're doing fine, but you want to scale up. Maybe you want to double your leads or your deals next year. Where do they start? You know, what are the first steps and what is it going to cost someone to start? Because if you can help them from this beginning part as they go scale up, they're going to see the value in further scale. So then you could very likely have a customer for life if this is done properly. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some things that you have to figure out at the beginning stages. One is like how you're going to get this done. I highly recommend working with a partner that kind of knows what they're doing. I think the more savvy a business person becomes, the more they tend to recognize that working through other people is the best way to get anything done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's, if you're not there yet and you want to try everything yourself, then maybe you learn a few lessons there. And eventually you get to this point where you're like, okay, if I'm going to be the best in the world, then I've got to, at what we do, then it's going to be a combination of having the best vendors, the best employees that are going to make that happen. Right. So you find a partner, they're going to help you figure out a lot of stuff. Like if you reach out to us, we already know the path, right? We've taken so many companies through this that we know who succeeds, who doesn't, what makes them different, et cetera. And we can help you kind of, get through those blind spots. The things that you need to figure out, if you're working with a partner, are more limited because, we're going to be writing the ads and building the sleep feedback system and the bidding and the keywords. And you don't have to worry about that stuff. What you do have to worry about is how long am I going to give this? What results am I looking for? What is the budget that I'm working with? And all those things are things that matter. Probably so to simplify that, I highly recommend giving it at least 6 months when you're launching a new marketing channel. You want to give it that time period in order to, get an appropriate sample size. If not, you're flipping your coin twice and making a decision on what the rate of it getting heads or tails is. And you might be right, but you also really likely could be wrong. So that considered, be ready for 6 months. And then what your budget is, obviously you want that to be something that's sustainable for 6 months. You don't want to be that guy that has 20 grand and decides to spend 20 grand a month. And if it doesn't work out this month, then you're done.
You're done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think you've done a pretty good job of differentiating your strengths in your company. If you were to say to a potential client, what makes you different, what would you say?
I would say that there's a few things. The first one is focus on return on investment, not just leads. Too many PPC companies, the only thing they track is until leads because it's hard to track anything past that. We actually have our team incentivized based on producing ROI for our clients, which I don't know anybody else that does that. So there's that. There's aggregate data where we're using this data from all of our clients to feed your account. And then there's that research and development.
Yes,
those are the things that actually make us different and why you'd get better results. And
the fact that your real estate specific, that's a big one in my book, because if they're doing a little bit of department stores over here and I don't know, ball team over here and real estate here, you just can't be as good as if you're niched down into one thing. There's just no way.
Absolutely, that is true. A lot of the strategies that we use, like with aggregate data and stuff, you can't use that if your clients are in multiple niches. Like it'd be impossible. We could take. I believe that data is so important to the extent that I believe that, like, you know a thing or two about PPC. You're not the PPC expert, from what I understand. But if I gave you all of our data and told you go run some PPC campaigns, and then I was running PPC campaigns against you, but I had none of our data. And if you're like a semi-intelligent person that can like analyze the data and make some insights and stuff, I think that your campaigns would outperform mine. That's how important data is. It's not about the person running it. It's about the data behind what they're doing. And that's impossible if you're not in a niche. You know, data about what works in HVAC doesn't matter for motivated seller leads. Even data about what works for seller lead generation does not work for motivated seller lead generation. It's
Exactly. Data is so important. And let's just be honest, most of us are not deep in the data world. We like the data. We like the results of the data. And I always tell my daughter she loves spreadsheets. And I'll go, Debbie, if you put me together a spreadsheet on this, I don't want to do spreadsheets, but I like the data that comes from the spreadsheet. Yes. So I fully own that. I don't like to do that. But you cannot ignore the data, especially when you're spending money month after month and you are expecting a result. And, you know, and I love this. I'm always going to remember this focus on the intent. So that is just so good. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Brandon, before we wrap this up? And no, tell people how they can get a hold of you for sure.
Oh, absolutely. You can look us up on our website. It's batemancollective.com. And if you're interested in a consult, look us up, schedule that consult with my team. I'll have someone fantastic reach out to you and set up a time, and we can answer more specific questions, like specific to your market and the budget that you're looking at, or in terms of, you know, what results might be possible and that type of thing. It's hard to talk on a podcast in a way that actually applies to everybody. But if you can have an expert talk with you one-on-one, I think there's some value there. And if there is anybody that is currently running ads and not having success, then definitely take me up on this offer that we'll do a free audit. The way that works, you give us access to your account, you give us access to some of your data so we know what's going on. And then we will put your data and your account side by side with someone performing well, or the aggregate across our well-performing clients, and show you what's exactly wrong. Like maybe there's specific problems in the PPC account that you could fix, and that would get you where you're wanting to go. Or maybe you're blaming the PPC and really you should be closing better, or whatever the case is. It's really helpful to have someone look at that data that has a lot of other data from success to help you figure it out. People that fail with PPC, the problem is they just keep on trying new things, but they never actually understand why they failed in the first place. Yeah, they're just doing random stuff. Such a good point.
And I think, and this is really a golden offer he's making. And we have to get kind of a thick skin in business. And Brandon says, look, your ads are running great. You're really a crappy closer. And there are people that already know that. I mean, you cannot be good at everything, but getting this type of advice is worth its weight in gold. And if you're interested in looking into pay-per-click, you know, into running ads, talk to Brandon, because I know that he has extensive knowledge in this. I love the fact that they are real estate specific. I think that gives them a definite edge. There's no doubt in my mind that they know what they're doing. So I'll put the links. And is there a specific email address you'd like them to use, Brandon, if they want to email you?
Anybody can email me, Brandon at batemancollective.com. I'll introduce you to someone on my team that can help you with whatever questions you have. Or like I said, go to the website and you can go straight there, whichever works. But yeah, I'm an open book. I don't have any secrets. So just if you allow us to help you by knowing a little bit more about your specific situation, then we'd be more than happy to help.
Well, that's great information, folks. Be sure and take him up on it. And thanks again, Brandon, for coming on the show. It was great information.
Yep. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate it.